Streaming sports. You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on Northeast Streaming.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, 'cause it's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame, 'cause it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Cause it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Frankly Speaking Sports. What an incredible show we have for you this evening. Just an incredible show. We got a lot to talk about. We want to take some phone calls as well. We got not just baseball to talk about, but today we're going to talk about another team in a couple of minutes, another team in the Tampa Bay area fighting for a championship that has been under the radar. So we're going to hit on that a little bit. We're also going to be talking about, is baseball ruining its own game by changing the rules? We'll talk about that tonight as well. We'll talk about the contract Fernando Tatis just signed the 14-year deal. And we'll also have in about 20 minutes, we're going to be joined by current bench coach of the Seattle Mariners, Jared Sandberg, and then a little bit later on, by the way, Jared, if you remember, Tampa Bay Rays fans, was in the Tampa Bay Rays organization for 20 years, 3 as a player, 17 as a manager, won many titles with the Durham Bulls, I think 2 in a row at one time, the Governor's Cup. So very, very well known to Tampa Bay Rays fans. So just a great show. We'll also go over the lineup for next week, which what incredible guests we have lined up for you going into the start of the baseball season. We got a football player, a former Buccaneer next week. We got 3 or 4 former star players from Major League Baseball. So I do want to let you know, I want to welcome Donnie from Canada. Thank you so much. Love to have Canada. And if you haven't heard yet, the start of the season for the Toronto Blue Jays will be held in Dunedin. How long the Blue Jays will play in Dunedin for is still not known, but as soon as we get more information on that, Donnie will let you know. We know you're a dedicated listener here, but as of now, Toronto Blue Jays opening up their season in Dunedin, Florida, which is just 15 minutes from the Tampa Bay area, probably right around 15 minutes right where the Tampa Bay Rays play in St. Petersburg. But before we get into baseball, and we got a full show for you today, all those fans that are watching, all those fans that are listening, if you can please go ahead and share this to your timeline. We got a great show. There's the number to call in on, 813-922-9810. We'll go ahead and leave that number up there for a little bit. But, before we get started and talking about baseball, we have to talk about the USF women's basketball team. Everybody talks about the Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl. Everybody here talks about, the Tampa Bay Rays getting to the World Series. Everybody talks about the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup. Everybody talks about the Rowdies getting to the championship game, which was canceled due to COVID. But how about this USF women's Bulls team? Guys, in a game that they relatively did not play well last night, they won in overtime, 69-65. They're ranked number 12. Listen to me, folks. This is big time. You need to get off your butts and support this team. This team is ranked number 12 in women's college basketball. That's right. Number 12 in the nation they are ranked. Incredible job last night. What can I say about Bethy Manunga? 19 points again, 14 rebounds, a double-double. Sydney Harvey came in. Beautiful job. 23 points, 4 rebounds. Elisa Pinzon, 11 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds. That's still with 4 of their starters out due to COVID-19 protocols. This team is unbelievable. And then, ladies and gentlemen, it just came down yesterday, and I went ahead and I reported this to you yesterday that Jose Fernandez, the women's basketball coach for the University of South Florida, is now a 2021 Naismith Woman Coach of the Year watch list. He's on the watch list, which means he has a chance to win the Coach of the Year. And, what a deserving honor that would be for Jose Fernandez, who has been with, the Bulls for, 20 years, has done a great job. This team is, 11-1, 12-1. The only loss they lost was to Baylor. That is the only loss this team has had. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your number 12 ranked University of South Florida Bulls. Keep an eye on them, watch them. What a great year. And we want to wish Coach Fernandez, a good buddy of our show Bullseye, which we will follow these stories tonight on Bullseye with you. So we will get you more information, but we want to wish him, first of all, congratulations on being on the watch list. And number 2, the best of luck on winning the award. So that's USF. And once again, you can go ahead and watch us Tuesday night on Bullseye. Bradley Lewis Walker will be back with me. But, tonight, I want to talk about Major League Baseball. And, the big question comes up, and I'm going to ask you folks, I'd love to get you to chime in, but is baseball ruining its game? With all these rule changes that are going on, is baseball ruining its game? Let's first talk about it, and I'm going to break down a couple of different things that have happened over the last couple of years. I understand COVID has played heck on a lot of different organizations, sporting venues, and so on. But these are rules in general. And let's start with this crazy, stupid extra inning rule that everybody knows I hate. They continue to try to change a game that was already being done correctly, and now they put in this extra inning rule. They put it in there, and what happens here? Basically, a runner starts on second base to start off an inning. I don't like a game that's being played the whole year long a certain way, and then when you get to extra innings, they change the game. That's number one. Number two, ever since the shift has come into the game, it seems like baseball is losing more and more fans. Now, people say, well, that's a strategy. They say field 9 people on the field. They don't say where they have to be. It might be true, but some rules have to be put in place to get the game more appealing and more exciting to the fans. And as much as I love defense, I think the shift has ruined the game of baseball. It's allowing people, now to play anywhere they want. So the next thing you're going to see 7 or 8 outfielders in the outfield, or 8 infielders and 1 outfield. Who knows what's going to happen? But it is ruining the game. Then you want to talk about something that is slow. Baseball constantly talks about speeding up the game, and speeding up the game. Yet they continue to slow it down. And one of the main reasons, and everyone's trying to figure out, why has the game been slowed down so much? What is going on? And I'll tell you what's going on. There's too many damn pitching changes. If you go back to the time where baseball was invented, and I'm going back to 1908, or even though it was before then, but they averaged 1.4 pitcher a game. In today's game of 2019, the last full season we had, baseball is averaging 4.4 pitchers pitching an actual game. That's ridiculous. That means every game you go to, you're going to see about 9 pitchers between both teams. You don't think that adds longevity to a game? That is a ridiculous amount of number, especially when you're bringing in a pitcher who may have the same exact arsenal as the pitcher who is already out there. For some reason, they're using all these analytics, and we'll get to analytics next, that are ruining the game, and it's just slowing down the pace of the game, and fans are dwindling away one by one. And, only the pitchers only going 5 or 6 innings. If you want to put things into perspective, folks, I took the New York Yankees team of 1975 versus the New York Yankees pitching team of 2019, and I broke it down. In 1975, in 162 games, simple stat, listen to me, folks. This is it. 1975, the Yankees alone had 70 complete games. That means in 70 of the games that the Yankees pitched, almost half their games, only 1 pitcher pitched the entire game. 70 of them. Now you go 30 years later to 2019. In 2019, the entire Yankee pitching staff had a total of 1 complete game. A difference of 69 games where more than 1 pitcher was used. That's an outrageous number, folks. That is a huge, huge number. We're talking about thousands more pitchers being used in games over that 30-year period, when in 1970, they've had, 40-something% of their games, they've only used 1 pitcher. That is ridiculous number, and that's why we need to let these pitchers go further. We need to stretch them out a little bit. Go back to a 5-man rotation instead of a 4-man rotation. But that's the one game you can make better. Analytics, we are using numbers. I'm going to tell you something about analytics, folks, and this may be a surprise to some of you, but analytics has always been in the game. Don't let these guys like Kearney from MLB Network and some of these other guys like John Heyman and Rosenthal and all these guys who thinks they're so intelligent tell you that analytics is new to baseball. It's been in the game forever and ever and ever. When Sandy Koufax was pitching, analytics were in the game. The difference is it's just more easily accessible nowadays. That's all it is, folks. I'd love to get your opinion on that. But I remember we used to carry around scorebooks. We We would go to a game and they give you a scorecard if you wanted to keep score of the game. What has happened to the fun of the game? They're taking it away. They're taking it away, baby. They got to put that back in. And they're not doing that. They're taking the fun out of baseball. The analytics, they're not coaching by who they feel is hot, who they feel is cold. If they have the gut to think this pitcher can stretch it a little more, they're managing by numbers. They're managing by what a piece of paper said. Why the hell do you need a coach if you can just read off a piece of paper and call down from upstairs and tell the guys what to do next? It's ridiculous. Baseball is being ruined by the unnecessarily analytics, the war and all this. How many times a game a guy gets a hit when he scratches his cup with his left hand? Those are things that don't make sense to the game. We saw a major screw up in analytics last year in World Series Game 6 with the Rays versus the Dodgers when Snell was taken out of the game because a piece of paper or the numbers said it was the right thing to do. That's where the coaching aspect is missing. We have good enough people who are smart enough managers in Major League Baseball to make these decisions. Now, do you need to know where to play a guy or do this or do that? Yes, okay? But at the same time, there are some things that are just overrated. And then, we talk about this PED era. Everybody talks about PEDs, and we'll do another show on that about who should be in the Hall of Fame and who's not. And we've done one in the past. I know the fans have loved it, but, we talked about people juicing, and everyone knows my stance on PEDs. I'm a firm believer that they make you stronger, but I don't believe it makes you hit a baseball better, maybe further, but not better. And it doesn't help a pitcher except maybe throw a little harder. But at the end of the day, the pitcher still has to hit a location. He still has to turn his wrist a certain way on a curveball, on a slider, on a split finger, on a four-seamer, and so on. And where a hitter has to make eye contact, still be able to swing the bat, and still be able to hit the ball solid. So I don't believe that PEDs necessarily played a major role in some of these guys' success. I do believe these players should be in the Hall of Fame. But on the same end, you are penalizing players who played during that era for juicing up. But, 3-4 years ago, Major League Baseball decides to give performance-enhancing drugs to the baseball. They juice the baseball. So now just instead of telling players they can use PEDs and all this stuff, what they go out and do, they made the ball so it could be hit further. They juiced the baseball. So now you have a baseball that has PEDs in it that is going further, and the game is not being played fundamentally right anymore. There is no more small ball in baseball. It's unheard of. There is no more Billy ball. And I'll tell you right now, folks, I could go back into management, into coaching in the major leagues tomorrow. I don't care what team you give me. You give me the worst team on paper in Major League Baseball, I will bet every single owner, every single media person that my team will go to the World Series. No ifs, and or buts, because fundamental baseball will take you further in this game than anything else. I would play Billy Ball. I had the pleasure of being with Billy Martin for 3 months. I had a chance to pick his brain. I had a chance to watch him. I remember I used to sit in the dugout. Ron Guidry used to sit near me, and I used to tell him what was going on before the play would happen, what Billy Martin was going to do. He thought I was crazy until after a couple times he looked at me and I was right. I'm telling you, folks, small game, manufacturing the runs is not only the way to play baseball, but it's the way to draw fans back in the stands. What fan doesn't like people stealing bases? What fan doesn't like seeing hit and run? What fan doesn't like seeing people dive head first into second or third base? What fan doesn't like seeing somebody hit a triple in the gap and trying to stretch a double into a triple? That is small ball, sacrificing a runner over from one base to another. And that is what has left the game of baseball. That is what is missing in the game of baseball. Now it's more of a home run or strikeouts, sort of like a home run derby with strikeouts involved. It's not about hitting for average anymore. It's not about getting on base. And I think the shift has the main reason to do for that because, we've heard people talk this week. We had Steve Traskell on. We had a couple other players earlier in the week on, and we're talking about, the shift is not giving people opportunities to hit the ball into open areas. So they're trying to get under it, hit it in the air because they feel now where it used to be, you have a better chance of getting on base if you hit the ball on the ground and the other team creating an error. Now these fielders are getting so much better and better and better that they're trying to hit the ball in the air over their heads and trying to get runs scored that way. So that is my take. I hope you guys enjoyed that little segment on what I feel is ruining the game of baseball. I would love to get your feedback on that. We are about 5 minutes away from having Jared Sandberg on with us, bench coach of the Seattle Mariners. But before we get to him, news came down, I believe yesterday or early today. I lose track of my days. Fernando Tatis Jr. signs a 14-year contract extension for $340 million with the San Diego Padres, which means for the next 8 years, him and Manny Machado will be playing together on the San Diego Padres. Now, Machado's 22 years old, only played a couple of years. We can ask the question and we can sit here and debate all we want about whether, this is a dangerous move, a good move. But anytime you sign someone for 14 years, there's obviously some risk in it because you're hoping that he can perform at that same level for 14 years in a row, which anybody in Major League Baseball will tell you that is very difficult to do. But, just to break it down, guys, here it is. Let me see. There it is. That is the amount of money that over this time frame that Fernando Tatis is going to get paid. He's going to get paid $2 million per month, $45,000 at bat, and so on and so on and so on. I'll leave that number up there for you a second. But, this is a big decision. The San Diego Padres, watch out for them. And we'll be reviewing and previewing, the NL West down the road now as we get closer to the season. But they're one of these young teams that are going to be very, very, very good, in the near future. And it could be as soon as this year. So we'll keep an eye on that. But when you look at this team and you look at this Padres team, to add to now you got Tatis, now you got Machado, you got Trent Grisham who can hit 20 homers, Eric Hosmer, Tommy Pham, Will Myers, and then they got that new pitching staff of Darvish, Snell, Lamet, and Musgrave, who can all win more than 10 games. So I'm telling you fans out there that are big fans of the San Diego Padres, it could be a very, very, very big year for you in San Diego. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let me go ahead and move some stuff around. And we're going to take a quick station break, and we'll come back. We'll have Jared Sandberg on with us.
You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports. You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank.
Want to welcome you all back to Frankly Speaking Sports. And the next gentleman that we're going to have on is the current bench coach of the Seattle Mariners. But he was in the Rays organization for, I want to say, roughly 20 years. 3 as a player, the other as a coach and a manager. Has won a couple different championships. I know with the Durham Bulls, I believe in the 16-17. And, I remember one of the games, and we're going to play a highlight from it, in 2002, where Jared Sandberg played for what was called at that time, folks, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Let's go ahead and show you this quick clip before we bring him on.
Leading off for the Rays, Jared Sandberg, and boy, does he get a hold of this one. That baby's fair and gone. Jared Sandberg unloading on the first pitch here in the bottom of the fifth, and that will give the Devil Rays a 3-2 lead. These are the things Milt May has been talking with him about, and it's good to see him jumping on that first pitch.
Look on his face, he says, I hit this one really good. I mean, you could just hear the sound, see where it landed.
And the high shot deep into left center. Boca Chica will watch it go. Home run. Jared Sandberg hits a 3-run blast. He's seen 2 pitches in this inning and has hit 2 home runs. This one a 3-run shot, and the Devil Rays have broken this one wide open. It's now 11-2, a 9-run bet for the Devil Rays.
Quite a resurgence last few weeks for Jared Sandberg. Really starting to see that confidence growing. The Rays have incredibly hot hitting from Randy Wynn in the leadoff spot and out of the number 9 spot. Jared.
Wow is right, and it is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to bring in now the bench coach for the Seattle Mariners. Let's welcome in Jared Sandberg. Jared, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Larry.
Jared, thanks for being with us. I mean, before we even get to anything else, we start off with that clip, probably one of the best days in your career as a major league ball player. It's one thing to hit 2 home runs in a game. Then it's another to hit 2 home runs, which only, I believe, like 16 players have done in Major League Baseball history in 1 inning. But you decided to do it on 2 pitches. Talk about that.
Yeah, that was definitely the highlight, or one of the highlights of my Major League career. And it was definitely an exciting time, too. I mean, I didn't know that I hit 2 home runs in the inning until after a teammate came up to me after I hit the second one and said, hey, do you know what you just did? And I'm like, yeah, I hit another home run. He's like, no, 2 in the same inning. So my teammates are pretty excited for me, but the more that I've kind of dug into it and watched the highlight a couple more times, it is pretty remarkable to be able to do that on 2 pitches and 2 different pitchers as well. So that was pretty fantastic for me to do, and a highlight, like I said.
Now, let's talk about, before we get into a little bit about your time in the Rays, you're currently, if I'm correct, if I have the title right, still the bench coach of the Seattle Mariners.
Yes, that is correct.
As a bench coach, for those of the fans that watch a lot of baseball, talk about what a bench coach's role is in relationship to a manager.
Yeah, I think the role and a lot of the different coaching roles in Major League Baseball and all the different coaching staffs, they're all evolving, and there's so many different titles that are out there. But I'll speak to my relationship with Scott Service. We have a tremendous relationship, and there's a little bit of a family tie as well. He played with my uncle Ryan Sandberg in Chicago for the Cubs, and so I came on board as the field coordinator the first year. I was able to run spring training and do a few more things, and during the season, be a part of all the meetings and learn kind of what Scott's expectations were. And then to get promoted to the bench coach, just adds a little more of an element to it. But more of it's more of the game and in-game decision making, or decisions that lead up to the game, strategy type stuff. But also just making sure that the players are ready to go. Throughout spring training, throughout the season, and make sure that that communication link is there.
Pitchers and catchers reported yesterday and today, depending where you're at, of course. And next week, all your full-time position players go ahead and join the team. When you're a coach or a manager, a bench coach, what are you looking for? Obviously, they're not in game shape because you haven't played games in a couple of months. But what is a coach looking for from their players when they show up to camp, as far as being in shape, arm strength, conditioning, and what is the things that'll, really upset a coach more than anything when they come to camp if they're not at that point?
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time for everybody. First day of spring training, especially for me, I get to put on the hometown Seattle Mariners uniform, every single day. So that's a huge motivating factor for me and an honor as well. But yeah, I mean, we have these meetings going into the off season at the end of the season prior, and then you have these meetings during the off season with the players, just check in and making sure that they're doing the right thing or what we're asking them to do. And our guys have been very accountable. They've showed up. They've done the work in the off season. They're in tremendous. They're in good shape. I was telling Marco Gonzalez the other day, he looks felt. So some of these guys have put on some muscle and they look really good. And then a lot of these pitchers have been throwing some bullpens. So yeah, they may not be in tip-top shape right now, and there is a progression, and they're getting to that game readiness here in a couple of weeks. So what we're looking for is that they did the right thing over the course of the off season, and they worked the right way, they trained the right way, they made the right adjustments physically and mentally. And then obviously you wouldn't want somebody that sat on the couch and ate cheeseburgers all off season and had to go up a pant size or two to get into their uniform. So all of our guys came into camp in really good shape today, and they all looked really good.
I want to talk before we get into the Seattle Mariners and some expectations for this year. In 2002, you had your best year with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. We have a big Devil Rays Rays following, obviously, on this network. A lot of people remember you. You had a great sophomore year. You hit 18 homers for the Devil Rays at that time. But my question to you, playing only 3 years in the major leagues, at what point, was it while you were playing, before you were playing, or after you were playing, did you have the conscious mind that you wanted to become a coach in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, great question. I think it was probably after my time in the big leagues that, when I went to, whether it was Corpus Christi in Double-A with the Houston Astros organization, or the Akron Arrows and played in the Cleveland Indians organization, or even Portland, Maine, and played for the Boston Red Sox organization. Going back down to the minor leagues and playing at the Double-A level and seeing those prospects come up. And as an older player at the time, helping those guys along the way, it was kind of that moment that I was like, I want to be coaching, here in the next couple of years. I'm ready to move on. But in my high school coach back in the day, and there was an interview where my high school coach said that he recognized even in high school that, having me play shortstop in the middle of the field, it was like, and my knowledge of the game and just the way that I was into the game, he really felt like he was having another coach on the field. So there's those two aspects, but also, my Uncle Ryan, Hall of Famer, second baseman for the Chicago Cubs, he managed in the big leagues as well. My dad coached for over 35 years in high school and youth sports in the Olympia, Washington area. So coaching has kind of been in my blood and in our bloodlines for a while now. And it's something that I really enjoy. It's giving back to the game of baseball, but giving back to these players that I'm around every single day, whether they make it to their goal of making it to the big leagues or they become successful after their careers. It's about guiding these players through baseball, but also in life.
And Jared, somewhere down the road, and your hope, I'm sure, is to get a managerial job with some club. And I always love asking this question from coaches: when you're coaching, are you actively inside your head recruiting a coaching staff down the road? And what I mean by that is you may have some players, let's say for the Seattle Mariners, that may not be Hall of Fame players, but they could have the potential to be unbelievable coaches and have the ability to teach, educate on different aspects. Are you actively looking for that while you're also coaching?
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple qualities that you're looking for. Somebody that could be a good self-evaluator, a good communicator. Somebody that was had a good, strong work ethic. Just to name a few. But yeah, you're always kind of thinking, down the road. Hey, this guy could be a solid coach. And I know, talking to Mitch Lukovics, he was the farm director when I was there as a player and coach, and he always said, like, when I called him and asked, if there's any coaching spots available, he had me in mind when my career ended. So I was kind of a good fit. Plus, I played in the organization. I played at all those levels that those same players that I was going to coach at, and the same levels that I did coach at. I was able to relate to those players very, very well. So I think as coaches, we're always thinking along those lines. And then also, like, the big thing nowadays is, coaches are trying to develop coaches underneath them so they can, get their coaching tree out there. And you look at guys like, Bill Belichick or Mike Krzyzewski or, some of these elite coaches and coaches that have coached under them and who they've guided, and their coaching trees are pretty big. And I think that's also a huge part of it as well as you're building your legacy.
You had over 10 years with the Rays coaching. I think you had consecutive International League Governors Cup championships. What are some of the key things you learned while you were with the Rays organization managing, let's just say Durham? I know you managed other teams throughout the farm system, but the latest was Durham Bulls, who won the 2 championships. What were some of the things that you learned that you've taken away from that organization?
Yeah, I think it was after my 2016 season, my second year managing the Durham Bulls. I kind of did some rethinking and some self-evaluating and talked to my bosses and asked them for some feedback. And a couple of things that they wanted to see from me was a little more discipline and a little more accountability to the players. And so I went to the Arizona Fall League that winter and was able to get back to some younger players and kind of get back to my roots a little bit of holding the players more accountable and being a little more disciplined. And I think it helped being around the younger players as well. So going into the next season, 2017 season, the other thing I wanted to add to that was just the Durham Bulls have a winning tradition, and managers before me like Charlie Montoya and Bill Evers really set the bar really, really high. And, they've won championships and been to the playoffs. And so my first 2 years, we didn't. So with some more discipline, some more accountability, and expectations to win and kind of bring back that winning tradition, and through my talks with the players and everything, plus we had some really talented players, those 3 aspects really changed my focus there at the AAA level and allowed me to have some success. But, you got to look at the depth of the Rays organization and the talent that we had that came through there. And, a lot of those guys have passed through there the last couple of years and allowed the Rays to have success in the playoffs and eventually get to the World Series this past season. So hopefully, they can keep that run going. Because I know, like, Tampa sports right now, everybody's really, really excited about the Tampa sports.
Yeah, we are. So let me ask you this. Why aren't, and, when you played in 2001 through 2003, it's no secret. You and I don't have to hide the fact that it was really a completely different style of game than we're playing today. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. Why do you think we aren't using more of the basic fundamental small ball type baseball things like bunting, hit and running, stealing, sacrificing, ways to manufacture runs? And why are we switching to more of this home run derby or strikeout type of game? And part 2 of that question is, do you think it's ruining some of the excitement from the fans' point of view?
Wow. Hopefully I can remember the second question.
No,
I think it just depends on the personnel you have on your team that, is going to kind of help you develop the style of play you're going to have. And, each organization has their philosophies. And, you look at the Rays, the Rays stole a bunch of bases and, they struck out a bunch, but, they walked as well. And, the batting average, I think you just throw out the batting average nowadays in Major League Baseball. You look at the Mariners, we stole bases, we swung and missed a little bit, but when our swing and miss went up, so did our power. So there's just some give and take there. So I think you have to really pick your spots when you're going to try and steal a base or put a guy in scoring position, because if you're going to hit for power, you want guys on base to be able to hit that, 2-run, 3-run, home run. And if a guy's stealing and it's a bad opportunity, gets thrown out, next guy hits a home run, you're losing out on a run. So a lot of that is making sure that you can have guys on base to score those extra runs. But again, it comes down to the personnel. I think the bunt, some guys just can't bunt anymore. They don't really practice it very often. You try and put these guys in spots to practice it, but it's really, really hard to simulate game simulations or game game experience to get a bunt down. So that's part of it. And then just the way that the guys are swinging now, it's not very conducive to ground balls. I mean, you can put guys in motion, but the hit and run and hitting behind the runner and all that stuff, some of the swings nowadays, they're just not really conducive to really doing that. So they're conducive more to driving the ball, hitting the ball in the gap, hitting the ball hard, and eventually maybe trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. And I think, strikeouts, they're a huge part of the game. Home runs are a huge part of the game, and they're both exciting. It is hard when you're watching a Major League Baseball game and it goes to a 3-ball count trying to get the strikeout all the time. So, I think a lot of organizations are going to, trying to get that put away or that strikeout within those first 3-4 pitches.
Now, the question I was going to ask you, I'm sorry, I almost wanted, do you, they talk about the fans, and the fans are losing, are the fans not going to the game? Are they going to the game? Is it losing its excitement because it's become more of a swing for the fences game?
I don't think so. I think baseball is really exciting. I only sat in the stands just a handful of times in my life. So, and I'm fortunate to have one of the best seats in every ballpark every night. They're in the dugout. So I think it's exciting. From a fan's perspective, I think going to the game and, getting your hot dog and a Coke, sitting there with your kids, eat some popcorn. I think, trying to pick out a role model on the field, I think it's a lot of fun. I think following the stat lines and the who's who, I think that's also interesting. And I mean, the game is exciting. I mean, these players are elite athletes, and they go out there and they do something incredible every single night. And so I think the game is still exciting.
It started where you came from in Tampa Bay, Jared. What is your opinion of the shift?
I love the shift. I love the 4-man outfield. I love it all. Go ahead, bring it on. It's a huge part of the Rays and their philosophy, and I grew up with it, and I'm a huge fan of it. I wish. I always said as a player, being a right-handed hitter, I always wish I could have a runner on third base, and that third baseman was holding them on, because there's a giant hole over there, and all the left-handers were getting those base hits. And just nowadays there is no hole; it's taken away. So whether it's leveled the playing field or whatever it is, guys need to have a little more adjustability in their swing to be able to do something different. Otherwise, the teams are going to shift, and they're going to continue to hit. Hitters are going to continue to hit into the shift.
Now let's talk about the Seattle Mariners in the upcoming year. The latest thing I heard, and I don't know, we only know what we hear, is that they might be going to a 6-man rotation this year. Talk about what the advantage of the Seattle Mariners going to a 6-man rotation is.
Yeah, it's a topic that we've been talking about, and we used it last year just because of the young pitchers that we had, and not knowing how guys are going to get built up. And I thought it was a huge advantage in a shortened season last year to be able to do that, to get as many guys the opportunity to pitch. And the young kids got those opportunities. But then going into it this year, there's going to be some innings limitations on those guys. So, with our starters having 6 of them, plus some bulk inning guys behind them, and then the normal bullpen guys behind that, it's a great idea. We got some good buy-in from the players, and they're on board, and I think it's a good way to keep guys healthy. And after a shortened season like we had last year, going into a pretty much a marathon this year and a regular full season, health is going to be important for everybody. So I think this is a good way to keep everybody healthy.
Already on that pitching staff, you had Gonzalez, you had Sheffield, and now Seattle gets back one of their old players, Paxton. How big is this for the Seattle Mariners? We know what he brings to the table, but just to add him and his veteran experience and everything, how big is that for you?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge for the fan base as well. He's a huge fan favorite, but here's a guy that's got dominant stuff, and to put him up there right next to Marco in our rotation, it's a huge addition, especially this late in the offseason. So, I met him today for the first time, and he's in great shape. He looks good. He's excited to be back. So it's a huge addition to our rotation right now.
Jared, you got a young team. I mean, there's no doubt about that. When you look at one of the younger teams in Major League Baseball, how do you go about, as a coach, a manager, telling these guys, I mean, they're going to take bumps. They're going to take bruises. There's going to be a learning curve. How do you convince these guys to go out, play hard, and that they still have the ability to compete for the division? And I'm not going to say they don't, because any team on any given day we know can beat anybody. But how do you build that confidence in a young team? Besides, people say winning takes care of everything, but you haven't won yet. So how do you go about teaching them how to win is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think, what's it been, 20 years or so since the Mariners have been in the playoffs. So it's one of the longest active streaks. And, I think listen to the players talk, and, they want to be a part of history. And it is some young players, but they got some experience last year. And it is a very talented group as well. So, I think our guys are going to go out there and compete, like you said, but, they're also looking to, surprise some people, and you just never know. If we can have our health and stay healthy, we're a talented young group, and anything can happen out there. Again, it's a long season. And I think these guys are well aware of what's ahead of them, whether it's this year or next year. But they're excited to go out there and try and change kind of what's going on right now with the lack of winning and getting to the playoffs. So they want to be a part of that history.
Now, before I let you run here, rebuilding, I hate using that word, and I hate when just my own personal opinion, because it almost sounds like you're accepting an excuse for losing because we're in a rebuilding stage. I mean, when you hear that stuff, how do you let the players know, no, we're here to win now. We're here to win today. Each game we go out and play.
Yeah, I think it's been out there in the media. Jerry Dipoto and Scott Service been talking. It was more of a step back. It wasn't necessarily a total rebuild where you just break it all down and start all over. We had some good pieces. We still have some young pieces that got experience last year, and there's some young talent in the minor leagues that are on their way as well. So, we're looking forward to kind of all of that coming together, and be able to make the playoffs at some point, and hopefully go out there and maybe do it this year. But I think, the players are professional. They're going to go out there and compete. They don't want to get embarrassed out there on the field and lose. So, it's in our DNA to win and go out there and compete. So these guys are going to do the best they can. But I'm excited for this year. These young players, they're really excited for this year, and hopefully we can go out there and surprise somebody.
Who's the one player that the national people should keep their eye on for the Seattle Mariners?
Well, I mean, everybody's looking at Kyle Lewis, see what he does in a rebound after winning the Rookie of the Year. But, Evan White gained a lot of experience last year, had a down year from a batting average, but he still hit the ball extremely hard. So I'm looking for Evan White to go out and have a tremendous season.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, Jared, I want to thank you so very much for coming on Frankly Speaking Sports with us tonight. I know you just started in spring training, got a lot of things to go over, but we do appreciate it, and I want to wish you the best of luck on a successful season.
All right, Larry. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
All right, you be safe out there. That was Jared Sandberg, bench coach of the Seattle Mariners, and what a great, great guy he is. What a great, great interview. Let's go ahead, take a 15-second station break to allow our stations to identify themselves.
You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on North.
Yes, you are. Want to welcome you all back to Frankly Speaking Sports. We got about 10 minutes left in our show. I am going to leave a number up here for you. If you want to call in, talk some baseball, maybe Buccaneer football, USF, anything you want to talk about, go ahead. Please call in. There is the number. But we also want to go over, as I pull up my calendar now, some of the great folks that we have coming on next week for you. You know, today will be, of course, our last show of the week. And then coming up this Monday on Frankly Speaking Sports, this Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we are proud to announce that we will have former San Francisco Giants, also played for the New York Mets. So you Met fans out there definitely want to tune in Monday. We will have Kevin Mitchell. That's right. Kevin Mitchell will be on with us this upcoming Monday. Then on Tuesday, on our Bullseye show, Bradley Lewis Walker will make his return after a couple of weeks off. He's going to be joining us, and we are proud to announce that Christy Lee Chapman Rolstad will be joining us, former softball player for the University of South Florida Bulls. That's Tuesday. Wednesday, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer running back Ernest Graham will be joining us. That's right. That would be Wednesday on Frankly Speaking Sports, also beginning at 9 p.m. And then next Thursday, to wrap up the week, we will have a double whammy of baseball pitchers for you. First, we will be joined by former Chicago White Sox ace Jack McDowell, followed by former relief pitcher who played a big part in their World Series for the Atlanta Braves, Pedro Barbone Jr. So a full week ahead of you on Frankly Speaking Sports. Make sure to go ahead. Make sure to join us. Just an unbelievable show we have planned for you all throughout next week. But, you know, if anybody is on the line and they want to call in from whatever platform you're on, you are currently on live with Frankly Speaking Sports. Not only are we on Northeast Streaming Sports, not only are we on Frankly Speaking Sports on Facebook and Crew Life as well, but we are also on several other ones. We are on YouTube. We are on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter at Larry Frankus. That's with a US at the end. You can also listen to this, the audio version, on different platforms such as Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. So lots and lots of different ways to listen to Frankly Speaking Sports. And I'm looking at messages. I want to welcome, I know it's been a couple minutes. We've got a full-packed show. Welcome Tommy to the show if I haven't yet, from Temple Terrace. I think I welcomed Eric and Donnie. Thank you, folks, for joining us tonight. You know, we've had an incredible show. We talked about baseball and some of the things that are ruining the game. So any feedback you want to give, whether you leave a comment or go ahead and give us a quick phone call. If you want to know some predictions on the Tampa Bay Rays, go ahead. We'd love to have you on here. We love to answer whatever questions you may have. We talked about Fernando Tatis of the San Diego Padres signing that 14-year, $340 million extension. If you want to talk about that, go ahead and give us a call. We talked about the USF basketball team, which we will talk way more about Tuesday on our Bullseye show with you. Just all the success that Coach Fernandez is having with the women's basketball team, only having one loss on the season to number 4 Baylor. So Tampa Bay, I'll tell you what, we said this earlier, and you even heard Jared Sandberg say it during the interview, that listen to this, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Super Bowl champs, the Tampa Bay Lightning, Stanley Cup champs, the Tampa Bay Rays, American League champions, went to the World Series. The Tampa Bay Rowdies went to the championship, but the game was canceled due to COVID. And now the USF women's basketball team, number 12 in the nation, and their coach is on the Naismith watch list for Coach of the Year. That's Coach Jose Fernandez. Tell me it isn't a great time to be a fan in Tampa Bay. What an unbelievable time it is to be a fan in Tampa Bay. We got about 5 minutes left in the show. If you want to go ahead and give us a quick call, a quick comment, we'll try to answer your questions. If you're not on the Frankly Speaking Sports platform and you are leaving a question, I probably can't see it. It's not that I'm being rude. I won't see it until after the show. So if I don't respond, it may not be until after the show. I go back and I will check the different platforms and see if I missed any questions and then answer them at that time. We also mentioned earlier for those Toronto Blue Jay fans, it looks like it is a done deal that the Toronto Blue Jays will start their season in Dunedin, Florida, their spring training home for the 2021 season. There is no time frame right now on how long they will play there, what the status is going to be. I would assume if the Rays are allowing limited fans in there, I'm sure Dunedin will. But, that's another story in itself. But I just wanted to make sure that we got that out there. Pitches and catches are reported. Everyone's reported. Very excited. We talked a little bit yesterday about, me not being happy with the way the media continues to disrespect the Rays. And we're not going to get in a big discussion about that now. But we will do a preview later on in the month of March, probably a week before the season starts. I haven't set the exact date, where we'll break down the American League East. And I'm thinking about doing a 4-day show where, I haven't decided if I want to do the whole preview in one night or maybe the preview one night the AL East, one night the AL Central, one night the AL West, and then the National League. So probably take 6 days to do that. However many days we decide, or if we'll do it just in one turn. But when we do that, we're going to have different people and different reporters and hopefully different players from those specific teams, on with us as we always do. Once again, an incredible week. Next week with guests. And we are booked all the way right now through March 4th. So we got an incredible backlog of guests for you coming on. And it may even be longer than that because it seems like we get guests by the minute here. So we're looking forward to that. But it all starts off this Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern time on Frankly Speaking Sports with Kevin Mitchell. That's right. Kevin Mitchell will be on with us on Monday night. Want to thank you all so very, very much for joining us tonight. I hope you really enjoyed this show. It was great. And we want to thank Jared Sandberg, the bench coach of the Seattle Mariners, for coming on with us tonight. He's very excited. Very, very young team in Seattle. He'll do a great job there. Jared wins wherever he goes. Wherever Jared Sandberg goes, he's proven it. He's won throughout the system in the Tampa Bay Rays organization, and I guarantee you he will be successful as he continues to coach and hopefully and should be a manager in the very near future in Major League Baseball. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much. Until Monday night at 9 p.m., when we will be joined live by Kevin Mitchell, I want you all to be safe. Have a great weekend.